everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Institute of Physics sponsored panel Supporting the Future. My name is Dr. Yvonne Kavanagh and I'm Chair of the Institute of Physics Committee in Ireland, and I'm delighted to welcome everybody today. Thank you, Sheila and George Porter, for the fantastic job you've done in getting SciFest 2020 together in an online forum and in very short notice. I myself am the Assistant Registrar in the Institute of Technology in Carlow, and I have many years experience both in industry and lecturing in the Institute here in Carlow, and I have a great interest in seeing Irish creative talent shine. So supporting young people is something that I feel very strongly about. As a judge myself, it was a great experience listening to our finalists, our SciFest finalists, and the science leaders of tomorrow talk passionately about their projects. So today I'm here with three great physicists, and we will discuss their experiences studying physics. The Institute of Physics is an institute which represents professional physicists around the world. It is celebrating 100 years, and we've just launched a new strategy and campaign to get more involvement in physics so that we can represent all society and continue to bring new and exciting innovations in all areas of physics. 100 years ago seems a long time away to everyone, I'm sure now, but our world has completely changed in that time frame. Physics has been at the center of the changes, both in terms of social change. How we live our lives now is due to research carried out in CERN, which brought us the internet, which is a big collaboration of researchers in Europe, most of whom are physicists. Changes in how we travel by train has been made by physics as well, breakthroughs in magnetic levitation. In medicine, we've seen breakthroughs led by physicists in how we diagnose and treat a lot of diseases. Physicists are everywhere, just not always visible. So now we're going to meet three of them. So today I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Jennifer Gaughran, who's an Associate Professor in Physics in DCU. Sarah Markham from the Burnell Institute in the University of Limerick, who is soon to be Dr. Sarah Markham. And William Dennigan, a physics graduate from Maynooth University and very well known in SciFest circles as a past winner from SciFest itself. So the first question I'm going to ask is, could everybody introduce themselves? So I'll start with Jennifer. Would you mind introducing yourself and telling us all about you, please? Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Yvonne. Yeah, so my name is Jennifer Gaughran. As Yvonne said, I'm an assistant lecturer or assistant professor in the School of Physical Sciences in Dublin City University. So I would have done a degree in physics with astronomy, but then for my PhD, and since I've kind of transitioned into biophysics and looking at how you can use physical concepts to do biomedical diagnostics. So that's me.
Brilliant, thank you, Jennifer. William, can I go to you?
Yeah, you can. Good evening. As I've been introduced, my name is William Dennigan, but I tend to go by Will at times. I'm currently studying physics and mathematics in Maynooth University through the Science with Education course. The STEM was always a huge role in my growing up, and hence my huge involvement in SciFest Ireland, and why I was absolutely honoured to participate on this panel. And I suppose it kind of led to me wanting to study, as I was saying, science with education, and kind of push that on to the younger generation and try and help them develop that passion as well.
Thanks, William and Will. And Sarah.
Very much. Hi, everyone. So my name is Sarah Markham. I'm from Limerick and have studied at the university since my undergrad. So I started in maths and physics background, moved into material science, and now I like to use physics to explore medical devices, looking at things like ultrasound and how we can make those better by understanding the principles behind them, the physics behind it. So I think it's a really interesting use of physics and one that lots of people might actually enjoy. So I've really enjoyed everything too now, but I think I'm an accidental physicist. I happened upon it, but it's a brilliant career. So great to chat about it today.
Great. Can I continue on that theme with you, please, Sarah? How are you an accidental physicist? How did you get to study physics, and why did you get involved?
Exactly. I suppose when I was very young, I wanted to be a doctor. For actually most of my childhood, wanted to be a doctor because that was a job I knew about. I didn't know any physicists. I didn't know what they might do or how you could get into that. But I realized when I turned about 17 that my knees would get really wobbly and I'd get really kind of a bit faint when I thought about surgeries, which isn't an ideal quality for a doctor. So I had some major decisions to make at that stage, and I said, what do I enjoy doing? And I really loved maths and applied maths and physics at school. Those were things that I found entertaining. Well, maybe not entertaining, but definitely interesting. And so I said, you know what, I don't know what I can do with this, but I'm going to follow this. I'm going to study maths and physics at college. And it was the best accident I have ever happened upon, because I accidentally discovered the best career that I think I could possibly have. You know, it's creative, it's, you know, there's logic behind it. And the best part for me is you get to ask the question why all of the time. I never lost that thing that you get as a child where you go, why does that happen? So it's a great career in that you get to spend every day trying to figure out why everything happens.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's great from that point of view, isn't it? You can challenge everything. You don't have to take anything for granted. William, and why did you study physics? You went on to study physics. You committed.
I suppose it all started back in secondary school. I got, as you've mentioned, I got involved with SciFest in my very first year of secondary school, and it was almost by accident, realistically. I attended a very small school, Lanesboro Community College, and because of that, everyone knew everyone, including my vice principal, who knew me quite well at the time, and he encouraged me to participate in SciFest in AIT at the time. Now, by all means, my first ever SciFest project was nothing to write home about whatsoever. But I believe it was a project investigating how random the concept of randomness was, and it was aptly named the probability of chance. But it did spark an interest in me. There was just something about grueling over data and just kind of analysing it to the full. Until you finally came to some conclusion that just felt like nothing else I'd ever experienced before. So while that wasn't exactly related to physics, it kind of sparked this desire within me to want to just set out to solve problems and be better able to explain the world around me, which ultimately led to where I am today, studying physics in Maynooth University.
Fantastic, thanks. And Jennifer?
Yeah, kind of similar to both yourself, Will and Sarah. I wanted to be an architect. Originally, that was what I wanted. I liked to draw. I liked that side of things. And then I wasn't going to study physics for the leaving cert. And then I did TY, and I encountered a physics teacher who actually just made it sound really fun, made it sound really interesting. And by the time I got to the end of 6th year, every option on my CAO was physics, or at least some backdoor route I could get into physics if I couldn't get in directly. And I do remember coming to that point and my parents sort of saying, that's lovely. Why do you want to study physics, or what is physics? And I sort of said, well, you know, it's everything. Physics is everything. It's how the whole universe works. And I don't really know why or what I'll do with it, but I know I really love it. And I think at that point, it's probably the best advice you can give anybody going into college or going into starting university. Do what you love, and, you know, the rest kind of can sort itself out later almost. So very much so, it was a teacher that just was an excellent teacher and sort of showed the wider scope of physics, and not just how to pass an exam, but what you could do with it outside of the classroom, which really inspired me.
That's fantastic. So you had a very motivating physics teacher when you were in 2nd level. So you did study physics then for your leaving cert?
I did, yes, yeah, and haven't stopped.
Able to do it to honours leaving cert level as well, I assume.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
great.
Yes, yeah.
And Sarah, were you able to study physics up to leaving cert?
I was, and actually I'd echo what Jennifer said. It was thanks to a fantastic teacher. You know, we had a wonderful physics teacher in the school. Despite the funding being quite poor in the school at the time, you know, I remember we used to go and borrow the weighing scales from the home ec department, and I don't mean a digital weighing scales. I mean one of the analog ones where you have 25 gram increments. And you know, obviously can't measure anything accurately with that, but the passion that she had for it, the passion that she was able to pass on to us, you know, it is an exciting subject. It really is, and she was able to show us that. And so I was really lucky to be able to do it. I almost didn't, because like what a lot of students, you go, okay, I need this many points to do what I think I might possibly want to do for the rest of my life for your leaving cert, and you're deciding that so young. And I was going, okay, well, out of the 3 sciences, which are the ones that I've scored the best in? And luckily someone talked some sense into me and said, just do the ones you like. Oh, it's very important to do the stuff that you like, really, because it's much easier down the line. It's much easier to do the work. It's not really work.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you like it, it makes it so much easier, doesn't it?
That's
it isn't work and joy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And William, well.
Yes, I kind of sound like a parrot here, but yes, I studied physics in the Leaving Cert and studied at a higher level. But like Jennifer and Sarah there, it all came down to a teacher, and a teacher who was extremely excited to teach you physics, and not just teach you physics as in this is what you need to know to pass your Leaving Cert. It was showing you everything. He was talking, he'd bring in news articles, he'd throw you news articles, he'd send links in Google Classroom. He was so into it, and he just made the 6 of us who studied physics at the time so into it as well. And it was a really good experience, and I wanted to share that experience. I suppose that brought me on to want to go into teaching physics myself.
Fabulous. So you're doing as you said, the physics with education. So you're going to teach at second level. You're going to follow on in the footsteps there. You think that that's where you want to have your career?
Well, it's certainly one place that I'd like to put my career. I can't say that it's the end goal, but I'm sure, as all of you are aware, physics just opens so many doors and opportunities out there that it's definitely one that I'll dip my toes into for a while and see how it goes.
You'll be inspiring then. You'll inspire the next generation as well and get more people interested in physics.
Well, hopefully, anyways, that's the end goal.
Gotcha. Yeah. Did you know where physics would bring you? Did you know where studying physics would actually bring you? And I guess who'd like to take that first? You know, where did you see when you started doing physics back at the beginning of 5th year? Did you say, yeah, this is it, I'm going to teach physics, or yes, this is it, I'm going into biomedical devices, you know, I'm going to be this person that's going to change the world of medicine? Did you know that when you started back when you were in 5th year?
I might jump in on this one. I had no clue, absolutely no clue. I still had that, and I quietly still do have that I want to change the world feeling with physics, but no, I really didn't. I just said, I'll take this one step at a time. And I was studying physics. It was enjoyable. We were actually lucky in that we occasionally got people from the university might have come in and done it. They did a demonstration. One amazing one I still remember, it was, nanotechnology. The first time I saw, a tie that you spill something on it and it just runs off, it astounded me. But even when I started college at the time, and perhaps this is my fault for not doing enough research, but even in college when I was studying physics, it still took me a while to figure out where I might go and how I could merge. So when I found medical physics, or the possibility of, biotechnology, all of those, that physics can underpin all of that, when I understood that, that was the aha moment for me, because it merged my interest in medicine with this, trying to understand why everything happens, and the benefits and the logic and the thinking that physics brings as well. So, as I said, very much accidental. I have kind of figured things out as I went along, but there was so many different avenues I almost took a couple of times, going down computer, like coding and computer technologies is something that I did for my co-op work experience, and that you go, oh, right, okay, physics helps this as well. I would never have put the two together until that point. So yeah, it really does open so many different avenues and opportunities that I think you could probably go into almost any field from physics and be very beneficial.
Yeah, I think we used to have the brochure of the A to Z of jobs you can do as a physicist, because we had people in every job under A to Z. Will, can I ask you the same question?
Well, I mean, I absolutely had no idea where physics was going to bring me, and I won't lie about that. And even today, when I'm saying I'm going to be a physics teacher, as I just said, I still have no idea where I'm going to end up, but it'll definitely be in the lines of physics. It's just, I suppose the best way to say is physics is just such a wonderful subject that you can study at any level. And actually, I suppose it could be a bit dangerous saying this, but I remember growing up and when I made the decision that, yeah, I want to study physics, I'd often get a reply from my mum saying that, well, geez, isn't that supposed to be very difficult now, or will you be able to manage it at all? And I'm sure actually many of the people watching this have had or are even currently in similar scenarios. But all in all, studying physics was one of the best decisions that I ever made. And so far, it's led me down such a fantastical path of opportunities that 5 years ago, I couldn't even have predicted I'd be in this position.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but I want to hear from Jennifer first.
Yeah, I would say exactly the same. I would say even now as an assistant lecturer, assistant professor, I'm still not sure I know what I want to do or want to be when I grow up. It never really stops, I think. Definitely in school, it came to the point where I was just like, I'll do what I like to do, and I'll see where it goes from there. I always knew that it wasn't, there were jobs and there were careers and there were pathways, but I even year by year, I never really knew which one I wanted to take, and I kind of have always sort of opened up to whatever possibilities come my way. So I've been lucky, as Sarah's just finishing up her PhD, I was lucky to have the opportunity to do a PhD, but very much so in the final year of my undergrad, someone said to me, have you ever considered a PhD? And I said, well, what's that? That sounds nice. Yes, lovely. And it was interacting with the PhD students in the school that showed me, oh, well, that's an option. That's something, you mean I could keep studying? You mean I could be in a lab all the time? This is incredible, really? I could actually do this? So very much so. And even throughout my PhD, I flip-flop back between would I like to stay in academia? Would I like to teach, like Will is saying? I had the opportunity at the end of my PhD to go and be a secondary school teacher for a while in the Isle of Man, actually. And that gave a whole new perspective, because you don't truly understand something, I think, until you try and teach it to somebody else, and it just shows you what you do and you don't know, very much so. And definitely students within a secondary school are some of the most challenging and engaged people that you will see, because they want to know why, they want to know how. These questions that are asked, that sometimes when you speak to adults, they don't have it, and it's so lovely to see people so engaged at that point. So yeah, I guess I'm constantly at the point of saying, this is fantastic, I wonder what's next, and just to keep doing it. Yeah, keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I have to agree with you all on that one. I'm the same. I'm still waiting to grow up and find something that I can do for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
Will, you touched on a very interesting point there, where you said that physics is hard. You were told physics is very hard now. Remember this? And are you sure you really want to do this? And are you certain that this is the path? And all of that. When you heard that, and even some students, when you go out to people and they say, well, physics isn't for me, that's all, that's not my stuff, that's not what I'm good at. What would you say to them?
Well, I suppose, as you've said, young people watching this are probably very aware of the barriers that are facing them at the moment when they want to pursue science subjects, particularly physics. But as you said, physics always had that association of being the hard subject or the boring subject, and people who study physics have to be hyper intelligent or absolute geniuses. But it's clear that that's realistically anything but true. Physics, in my opinion, I suppose would be the best way to say it, is the most exciting science when compared to biology and chemistry, but it's also the most exciting subject as a whole. In all my time studying physics, back in secondary school right to present, which is very little when compared with the rest of this panel, but I don't think I've ever once came across topic and sat there and was like, I'm so bored about learning how CERN take two particles and smash them together at almost the speed of light. In fact, I don't think anyone has ever said that in the history of studying physics. It's just something absolutely amazing. Now, it's worth saying, without that backing and support behind me from my parents, my family, even my girlfriend Amy, I probably never would have had participated back in SciFest or developed such a pure fascination with science and particularly physics as a whole. I suppose, like, physics isn't limited to just these grand, extravagant pieces of equipment and technology, like I just mentioned with CERN. We all use physics in our everyday lives, like literally all the time, from walking to using our phones to listening to music, even to just how your seatbelt in your car works. And it's just that physics is just such a gift that literally anyone can appreciate because we do it every day without even realizing we appreciate it. So to everyone watching and thinking physics is hard, if you have even the slightest hint of possibility that you may want to study physics at some stage, do it, because I guarantee you, you absolutely won't regret it.
Thanks. And Sarah, what would you say?
I couldn't have said that better myself. It really is, like, I remember I think I must have been extremely lucky that before I started studying physics for Leaving Cert, I hadn't really come across too much. My closest circle of friends and people that I talked to, my family, they didn't really say, oh, well, that'll be too hard. I was always challenged to take on the difficult things, but not physics. Wasn't as in physics wasn't the difficult thing. But yeah, no, I was so lucky that I didn't get it until I was already studying it. And then I've come across the people who say, oh, you must be really smart, or, you know, oh, isn't that hard? And the first couple of times, no, it's the same as any other subject. Yeah, of course you have to work at it, but you have to work at every other subject too. And so it really surprised me the first couple of times. And then unfortunately, it's something that I kept hearing, you know, even in college. It goes on, people still are surprised and they go, oh, really, you're studying physics? You know, isn't that hard? But I find it, as Will said, every day it is really, really enjoyable just to stop and think about how it is that it impacts absolutely everything. It's so fascinating. And that takes over every ounce of work that you might have to do for it, and completely negates it. So I'd say it's almost easier than some of the other subjects because it is so fascinating. So definitely, but unfortunately it is something that you do here, and we really do need to work to get rid of that, because I think the people who study physics don't tend to think that it is, you know, really hard. It's the people who may not have had the opportunity to get to understand it that feel that way. So I think it's definitely something good if we can kind of level out the playing field and treat it the same as our other subjects.
Yeah, I think that's key, isn't it? To treat it like any other subject. You know,
exactly.
I would find some other subjects extraordinarily difficult compared to it. Yeah. Jennifer.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you both. And I suppose it really comes down to the personal choice as well, because I think at junior cert, a lot of the time physics gets lost sometimes. I think it gets lost in the mix of chemistry and biology, and definitely sometimes the practicals aren't as hands-on, especially if you're in a school, as Sarah said, that doesn't have the availability of equipment, of the fun stuff that you can actually do. And I think sometimes the junior cert science course in itself is so dense, and it's this sort of push towards the exam, that it was very much for me when I got to Leaving Cert that we actually had time to do the experiments and time to understand and time to have chats and discussions, as opposed to here, learn all of these things quickly as you can. And sometimes it's because you're with a teacher who isn't a physicist, and sometimes you're with a teacher who is, and it works both ways, because I know now that when I'm teaching some biology related things, there's an awful lot of, oh my God, I wonder, am I saying this right? I'm going to have to go and look this up before I talk about it, because and it would be the same for me with languages. I'm terrible, absolutely terrible at picking up languages, always have been. But for other people, for friends of mine, they just pick up a language like that. And it's not that I think certain people are necessarily predisposed to physics. I think that certain people have the benefit of being exposed to it at the right time in their life and not being blocked off to it. But I would agree with you, Sarah, that it was later when I kind of got into the degree that it was, wow, you're doing physics, really? Like, and you're sort of going, yeah. And then I didn't think girls did physics. And I was like, yeah, no, we do. We're here too. Yeah. So there is an awful lot of that. I even remember the very first day of college in DCU, and you sit in the grand assembly with everybody, and you don't know anybody beside you. I was sort of asking everybody, what do you do and what do you do? And I couldn't find a physicist. They just weren't there. They were somewhere else in the big room. But later on, when I did find the physicist, when we all kind of came together, it sounds funny, but it was like, here are my people. Where have you been the whole time? This is it. I've found the like-minded people and friends who have stuck for life now.
Yeah, actually, did you find that when you got to college, you had a sense of belonging that you may not have had in second level, shall we say, that you found your tribe, if you like, people who thought like you, people who were like you?
Very much so, and people I did like, and something I didn't even know I was missing, to be honest. At that point, it wasn't until really the very first day when I met all of these other people who sort of shared this enthusiasm I had for things that I think probably I'd been keeping down up until that point, and kind of trying to hide away that nerdy side of me a little bit up to that point, in order to fit in. And I think we all do it at all points in our life, but really it was like, wow, there you are, fantastic, I've been looking for you, it turns out.
Yeah, you suddenly find, oh, you think like me. Haven't met many people who thought like me. Anybody else like to give their opinion on that one?
Yeah, I noticed the same when I went to college, is that there was so many people like that who kind of think so similarly in a lot of ways, but also that even within physics there are these avenues where people have different interests. So for me, while I find astronomy very interesting, it wouldn't be a primary focus of something that I go and seek out extra information on. But if you could talk to me all day about medical physics, but even within that, and the different personal interests in physics, and the different the fields that we kind of tended to like, I found that really interesting, in that there was a kind of a general, yeah, we do tend to think alike, and we have that kind of camaraderie in college that you find, but all being so different at the same time. I think that was fantastic, and it's great to meet that as well, to see how different it can be as well.
And you think any differences were more acceptable within the community as such? Yeah. And Will, what did you find?
Well, very similar. I mean, I was totally amazed when I went in to Maynooth the first day and just came across these people who suddenly were thinking the same as I thought, very like-minded people, and had the same interests. As Sarah said, some preferred different fields, but that we all had some generalized interest in physics as a whole, or even as in STEM as a whole, which, coming from secondary school, STEM wasn't exactly the favoured set of activities or subjects or exercises. I mean, coming from secondary school, I wasn't exactly ever the athletic type, or was particularly one to be able to kick a ball well or anything like that. But so I was kind of, I suppose, in that group of people at the back that you didn't really pay much heed to. But it was suddenly something. There was just something special about it when you went to third level and you realized, oh, there's a lot of people like me that are into this.
I think just to follow what Will said there, it was very much as well the first time I made a really active choice, that I said, this is what I want to do. And when you walked into university, I would say it's for anybody starting, once they've made that choice, it's the first time that you're not told, well, you have to do this to pass your junior cert, you have to do this to pass your leaving cert, you have to get the points, as Sarah said. It was the first time I went in and went, I'm doing this because I really want to. And here are all these other people who are doing it because they really want to. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, and very much, as you say, a community just around just similar thinking, and something you, as you said there, or some of you said there, that you didn't even realize you were missing. You fitted in your own communities back in secondary and did all the things you were supposed to do, but when you got to college, you just found your tribe as such. So that's great. Now I'm going to go for some of the different type of questions, like how do you change the world on a daily basis? Or how do you change the world in what you do? Jennifer, I'll start with you this time.
Okay, big ask. Yeah, I think in sort of, I suppose, in small ways. So for me, because I'm a lecturer, I get to interact with the next generation of students coming along. And as well as that, I'm ahead of our biomedical program, our physics with biomedical program. So I really get to interact with students all the way through. And I suppose my job in that instance is to convey to them the opportunities that are available once they leave, and to prepare them, I think, for going out into what is a very changeable world, especially at the moment. And you want to give sort of the tools to the students so that they can adapt as necessary, and that they can, you know, go out there and seize these ample opportunities that are available to them. I guess on the flip side of that, then there's the research side of things. So it's one of the wonderful parts of my job, is that I get to split between doing the lecturing and keeping up with the research. As Sarah is talking about, the sort of medical side of physics is something that I'd be very interested and invested in as well. And I was always really fascinated by the sort of the way that you can link and be this multidisciplinary person, even with the sort of fundamental physics background behind you. So I've done a lot of research on finding out different ways to detect diseases outside of big labs, so that you can go to your GP's office and look for really complicated or complex diseases like cancer, or take those sort of systems and bring them to sub-Saharan Africa and actually be able to administer health care technologies at the point of a patient, as opposed to, you know, having to have these big fancy labs in there. And that really spoke to me, and does speak to me, because there's an impact in it as well, that you could actually have a positive impact on other people's lives. Now, it may be 2 people's lives, but that's still a positive impact. And I think that's the key, that you're just trying to make the world a little bit of a better place. And I think if we can do that in any way, then it's beneficial. Plus, I can claim credit for all of my students that go out and do wonderful things and make wonderful changes to the world as well. So that would be, I suppose, my attempt at it.
Excellent, very good there. Yeah, and even in sub-Saharan Africa, as you say, we have physicists working on bringing water, and a very famous Irish physicist involved in that too. So yes, and from a humanitarian perspective, so jobs in humanitarian areas as well, link back to physics core, getting the technology in there. Sarah?
I suppose it is such a big question, how am I making a change? One of the quietest ways, perhaps, that I would say is just as a female being in science, just going in and doing physics, so that people start to see, oh yes, women do physics too. There are loads of us, but people need to know. Like, when I was a child, I didn't know any physicists. We need to know, yeah, there's so many fantastic Irish physicists. And you know, the people hopefully who are watching this might be our next group of physicists. So it's a very small change, but it is something that each individual person who does start studying physics, who ignores the people saying, oh, isn't that a hard subject, or you won't be able to do that, who ignore all of the barriers and just do it because they enjoy it. Each person who does that is making a very big change when you put it all together, by changing the community that we have. And then each of those people think differently. So they're going to come at problems in a different angle as well. So it's a good change to make. But from the research side of things, I suppose when you start a PhD, I think is the first chance that I really had that I felt I can make a real difference and make something or understand something that could impact lots of people's lives. You know, you start to do research and you see how that, you know, just doing one simple test in a lab can lead to a whole avalanche of follow-on and breakthroughs and understanding. And you start to see how that works and infiltrates into society, into everything that we use. So with the medical side, you really do have this option that this could be something that could be brought to improve the health of society, of lots of different people. So that is a really nice kind of a good feeling that you get when you're going into the lab in the day, and you get to do some work. And even when things don't go wrong or don't go right, because they do often go wrong, you know that you're working towards something that would be beneficial. So all of the changes happen slowly, but it's little steps like that that can help to make them happen.
Brilliant. And Will, I know you're at the end of your graduate, you're just about to graduate, so it's a difficult question for you, but I'm sure you still, because as Sarah said, just going into the field, you're contributing already.
Well, I suppose one step at a time, and in any incredibly small way that I can. Like, I mean, even currently, we're all doing our little bits for changing the world for the better. Like, I mean, realistically, it's quite topical at the moment, but the fact that each and every one of us are wearing a mask and even attending this webinar in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19, I mean, that's most definitely changing the world in its own little way, and I certainly am a part of that. But I suppose, like, realistically, what I'm aiming for is that once, and I said it already, but once I finish my degree, that I can return to secondary schools and begin sharing this knowledge with any and all students who have any shred of interest, that I can hopefully spark something in them, like my own physics teachers sparked in me, that just encourage young people to become involved with physics and start changing the world as they see fit. Because that is certainly something that is possible, and it's, well, realistically, it's the next step necessary for the human race.
Yes, and as you say that, the NASA Artemis project is starting very, very soon, which will bring us to space, and having a moon base where we can explore the galaxies and do experiments in zero gravity more easily and things like that. So jobs that we haven't even envisioned will suddenly become commonplace, and you know, the trip to the moon won't be such a hard thing to get, shall we say, as it is at the minute. So I was just wondering, just 2 sentences from each of you maybe on where you see the future of physics in the next 30 years. So who'd like to go first?
Right. Well, I'll jump in, and I mean, it's an incredibly difficult question to even answer, let alone fathom, considering how in the past 30 years physics has just made this seemingly unpredictable and near impossible set of advancements. But if, as I was saying, if young people take the reins, it will basically guarantee that physics will continue to develop at its current rate, if not even more so, and continue to open these wonderful opportunities for the world, and at that stage, most likely other planets and moons too.
Brilliant, thanks. Sarah? Yeah, sorry, I think like the time frame we're talking about is, can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. I think the time frame we're talking about is approximately, you know, it's approximately my lifespan, you know, and the changes that I have seen already in that. I remember, you know, when I was young, you went and you bought a little, what's it called, memory thing for the PlayStation. It might be, you'd save up for days and days and days, and you might get like 128 megabytes, you know, and that's only in my lifespan. So I think trying to imagine how it could possibly change in 30 years is beyond, I think. But even in the last year, we've seen so many changes in technology and in our use of technology, and I think that will continue for definite, and we'll start to be more connected, both to people around the world, not just, you know, that we meet on a daily basis. We may be meeting people on a daily basis from the other part of the, you know, the other part of the world. So it is something that I think would be great to have that more connectedness, and it'll be interesting, very interesting to see where things go.
Very interesting. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. And Jennifer?
I think, as the other two said, it's hard to know, you know, what really everything is a possibility. But I think, and I hope that physics will play a role in the big societal challenges that are coming our way, the sort of, you know, environmental challenges, health challenges, sort of feeding our growing population, all of these issues that are more prevalent now than they have ever been before, and in a great way are being paid attention to. And I think that physics and physicists have a real role to play in advancing technologies and advancing mechanisms so that we can combat these challenges. And I think we can do it. And it's talented people like the young people here at SciFest that are going to make that change. And how exciting is that? It's wonderful.
Thanks, Jennifer, and I think you put it very well. We want to limit less. So thank you so much for being with us today. Limit Less is our new campaign to support young people to change the world, fulfill their potential by doing physics.
What does a typical physicist look like?
Most people who I know who do physics are boys.
I think physicists tend to be rich white people.
To pursue physics, you have to come from a wealthy background.
I don't feel comfortable doing physics.
I think there's not a lot of girls in the STEM sector.
I guess if you like physics, then nothing should stop you.
Someone's always going to tell you no. As long as you think you can do it, then you should go for it.
Physics is for everyone. It doesn't matter how much money you have or where you come from.
People go into it thinking it's a lot more complex than it really is.
It's not based on history, it's up to you.
Just because I'm interested in physics doesn't mean I have to go to uni. I can do an apprenticeship as well.
Both my physics teachers are girls, so it's really inspiring.
Physicists are just regular people.
Physicists could have silver nail polish.
Anyone can be a physicist, it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like.
If you feel like you can do it, then do it.
The future of physics is equal.